thumbs up.
Okay,
Hello.
thank you very much, Andrew.
Hang on, my volume's a little, oh, there we go.
Welcome, everyone. I call this meeting to order. This council meeting is being conducted by means of electronic participation by a majority of council members as permitted by Section 238, 3.3 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. As there is presently an emergency declared to exist in the town of Mono, that being the COVID-19 pandemic. Council chambers will not be open to the public. This meeting may be viewed live starting at 7 p.m. on October 13th, 2020 at the Mono Civic web portal. It's confirmed that all members of council are present, and there has been public notification of proceedings are being video recorded and broadcast. Remind members of council that disclosure of pecuniary interest could be made now or at any time throughout the meeting. It must be declared verbally and the reason, and also a written document given to the deputy clerk. So this time I'd like to ask Fred Simpson to read the Indigenous land acknowledgement this evening.
Thank you, Your Worship. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the town of Mono resides within the traditional territories and ancestral lands, the Teal-Natati, Atawandaron, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples. We also acknowledge that the town of Mono resides within the treaty lands named under Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase of 1818. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement we declare to honor and respect the past, present connection of Indigenous peoples with the land, its waterways, and its resources.
Thank you. Now we will move to approval of the agenda. Is there any deletions, additions requested? Seeing none, we have a motion that council approves the agenda of session VC13-2020 as circulated. Could I have a mover? Moved by Nix and seconded by Martin. And I will ask for anybody who is opposed to passing this motion. Hearing none, that's carried. And we will move on to the approval of the previous minutes. The council approves the minutes of session VC12-2020 as circulated. Could I have a mover? Moved by Magdalo and seconded by Creelman. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for anyone who is opposed. And seeing nothing, we got that carried. So now we're on to public question periods. Mr. Simpson, did you have any questions submitted online?
Yes, Your Worship, we have 3 questions submitted online, and of course we also have Ms. Keogh, who is in the meeting, indicating that she had a question. So starting with the online questions, Karen Penny asks, regarding Ritchie compliance notice, how can this be accepted as it is not complete as per the original plan for removal submitted by G2S and approved by council?
Okay, how do you want to deal with this, council members? Did you want anything at this point, or we deal with the question under that item when it comes up on the agenda? Fred?
I mean, we're going to discuss this on the agenda. Why don't we try to answer Karen's question at that point? Okay,
thank you. If everybody's in agreement, then we'll move on to the second question.
Okay. The next question comes from Bill Monroe, and he asks, with respect to corporate service delivery and efficiency study, in October 2019, the CIO sent a memo to the treasurer regarding funding from the province on March 19, March 2019 from MMAH. Previously, these funds were placed in reserves. However, this time the province mandated that the funds be utilized to look at external services and projects to enhance efficiencies within the town. The CAO subsequently suggested that a review be conducted internally rather than in concert with the county RFP. A recommendation of $50,000 was budgeted for this purpose. Has this review been conducted, and if so, is there a report?
Okay, Mr. Early, would you like to respond to the question?
Sure, Your Worship. As you're aware, the corporate service delivery study has not yet even been completed by the county. We were hoping to follow what direction came out of the county study, so that's been ongoing and delayed because of the COVID emergency. So I've not started the study, nor do I have a report to provide. I was planning on just putting that back in the budget next year. As you're aware, that was coming out of the efficiency funding provided by Municipal Affairs. We've also been utilizing some of that efficiency funding as we've changed our ability to service residents during the COVID crisis.
Okay, thank you. And is there any other questions for Mr. Monroe, Fred?
Yes, the third and final question is also from Mr. Monroe, and he asks, with respect to ranked ballots, this process demands an open house and public meeting. If approved after these meetings, Council has to May 1st, 2021 to pass a bylaw to take effect for the 2022 election. In addition, I would welcome a discussion regarding its changing to a ward system from at-large. This also would take an open house and public meeting, and I believe a number of signatures. Is the Electoral Reform Task Force able to decide their recommendations to Council under this time constraint?
Okay, Deputy Mayor, do you have anything that you can add to that item?
Just that COVID has delayed a number of things, but I would hope that this is something that we get going very soon, because we do have this deadline of May 2021, and I'd like to see some recommendations from the Electoral Reform Task Force prior to that so that we have options to pursue. I don't know that we're going to be able to have a traditional open house with the public present, but we have been operating quite nicely with the technology such that it is, and I would hope that they would convene a meeting and go forward to give us recommendations.
Okay, Ralph?
Your Honor, I was interviewed, and I believe Sharon Martin was as well, by the this committee at probably its first meeting, and I subsequently talked to John Riley, who's the chair, about continuing with their electoral reform committee, task force committee, and that was last spring, and I feel that there's room to give John some encouragement to try and continue this committee in a virtual form. He at that time was of the opinion that it was, I hope I'm quoting him right, best to not pursue this until we had a chance to have person-to-person meetings. But given the situation now, I think that he should be encouraged to get that committee going. And I don't think we need a motion, but perhaps an email from yourself, Your Honor, or something to that effect. And I agree. I'm glad that Bill Monroe brought this up, because as the saying is, time's a wasting.
Okay, so I'll work with Fred Simpson on the contact. Mr. Early?
Oh, I was just going to say, because of the notices that are required, the date you are working to, I think, is mid-March, March 15th. We would need to know one way or the other for posting advertisements for meetings to get a decision by the May date.
Okay. Okay, so Fred Simpson and I will work on contacting John Riley and see what we can get going in the very near future. So, Elaine, you had your question.
There we go. Yes, good afternoon, good evening. I have two questions. The first one has to do with the town meeting, the town hall meeting. According to Wikipedia, the town hall meeting is a way for local and politicians to meet with constituents, either to hear from them on topics of interest or discuss specific upcoming legislation and regulations. I understand the two topics which are going to be discussed at the town hall meeting are plastics and waste. We all agree that the environment is very important. We have many issues happening in Mono. My question is, how much time has council set aside to hear from the residents of Mono at the town hall meeting?
Well, we have decided the date for the town hall meeting was being selected as November 5th, Thursday at 7 p.m. and it would be by video participation. We were trying to get contact with county staff at the Waste Department to help us with presentations, and we would welcome other topics to be added, understanding that it may be difficult to host everybody. This will be our first time to try and host something larger than our standard council meetings. So that's how far we've gotten.
Shell, may I suggest that perhaps you should post something on your website indicating about the upcoming meeting and that you're welcoming questions from the residents or topics of discussion so that people can be prepared, and giving an outline of the time frame in which individuals will have to speak, or the overall timeline that would be given.
Well, and again, we have to find out what county staff, if they're able to participate. If not, then we would have to change items for the agenda too. So that's the reason why it hasn't been formally posted yet. So we're working on what's going to be happening and to certainly get it up on the website as soon as possible and advertised.
My second question has to do with the, and I do have to give a little background on it, has to do with the electronic participation in council meetings. I've read over the procedural bylaw as it was set out in May 26, and there has been subsequent amendments made which I feel ought to be reconsidered definitely before they are passed. In particular, Part 9, 9.1, the electronic participation, it was to be during, I got a fly flying around here, during a declared emergency. And we all agreed that we've been in a pandemic and this has worked out very well for people to be aware of what's going on in the community and keep us aware. But my concern is that you have deleted in the amendment the words during a declared emergency, and you want to allow electronic meetings to be called and held in full or in part during non-declared emergencies. Under the procedural bylaw, section 3.19, meetings, and I use the word shall, and that's the word that is used in the wording, shall be open to the public. They cannot be and will not be open to the public, as council and staff are aware that a significant number of residents in Mono cannot attend virtual meetings due to poor or no internet service. Council has truly wanted, if council truly wants to public participation, they should consider virtual meetings only during a pandemic or an emergency situation, but not as a regular meeting. There are several parts to this, and then I will ask my question. Next, the notice that you're asking participants to give if you were to use the electronic system is 2 business days before the meeting, and the staff will use, and I use the term out of your bylaw, past efforts to be available, subject to available resources. 9.6 uses the word to observe rather than participate. We are all residents of this community, and it shouldn't be something that we should be watching. It is something that you should look at, all of us, and to participate in rather than look at. 9.7 reads in part that the clerk shall establish or amend procedures. Amendment should not take place by a clerk. It should take place by council, and only council once they have discussed it with the residents of Mono. The mayor, council, and everyone has used the term citizens engagement over and over again. Where is citizens engagement when you want to take away the right that meetings shall be open to the public? My question is, why does council want to make these changes at this time? We have so much going on in our lives with the pandemic. We need to look forward to the future of being involved as a community, involved, having our council, our clerks, our staff, being able there to talk to us and be part of us, and being physically in a room. I am not talking during the pandemic. I'm not talking about if this continues. But if we start amending legislation and bylaws now, we are going to have a problem that we're going to be stuck with. And I feel that nothing should be changed without getting input from the residents. What is your position on this?
Okay. I know that with the report that's included in today's agenda under new business item number 2, the report from the deputy clerk cites the passing of Bill 197, COVID-19 Economic Recovery Act, and amends various statutes in response to that, amends the Municipal Act to allow for electronic participation in meetings, including closed meetings during periods other than declared state of emergency. So we were trying to make adjustments so we do have flexibility if there is a requirement to meet electronically as opposed to having to meet in person due to concerns about health regulations, etc. Especially since we just heard last week about what's going on in some major centers in Ontario. We have to have the flexibility so that we can continue to do the business of town and encourage residents to participate as best they can, but we aren't in a position where we feel that we can have public council meetings in confined closed spaces. So that's where we're at. I don't know if any other member of council wants to make any comment.
May I just make one more comment? We are not talking about during emergency. That's why I want the words back in for emergency situations. Absolutely, we agree. I think everybody you'd ask would agree that during emergency, during health issues, or for the safety of the community, absolutely. But by removing the words from the during a declared emergency, I think specifically it allows or would allow for other meetings to take place at other times that are not necessary, but are more convenient to people who are sitting. And I don't think that it's a matter of convenience once we're back to whatever normal will be. I think that it's more of what the people and their ability to participate in what's going on in our community, not just by video conferencing, once we are allowed to do so. So
Right.
I recommend that the words be put back in during declared emergencies.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, you had a comment?
Yes, let's look at some specific examples. Say there's no emergency whatsoever. The proposed changes would permit somebody who, for instance, wants to ask us a question to do so from anywhere in the world. So they're a resident of Toronto and they want to come online, mindful of the fact that our meetings are televised, they can do so and ask us a question. If somebody wants to be a delegation, but it is inconvenient for them to attend the council meeting in person, they can do so. If a member of council is, for whatever reason, unable to attend council, but could do so virtually, it allows participation in that fashion as well. So yes, it is outside the confines of a declared emergency, but it gives us a flexibility that heretofore we haven't had. And going back to the original point, all of our council meetings follow a particular schedule and they're all televised.
Okay, anyone else?
I'm sorry for then would it not be possible to have a portion of a meeting that is held in the council chambers and some of it televised or videoed, if somebody wanted to participate in that way?
Okay. John?
Well, that's exactly what this contemplates. It contemplates a situation where we are back in the council chamber, all 5 of us as an example, but we are able to entertain questions from the public virtually. We're able to entertain delegations virtually. The other scenario would be that, say, 3 of the 5 of us are in the council chamber, 2 of us are away, but we're able to attend virtually. And it means that the business of the town continues, as opposed to a situation where we simply cancel a meeting of council because there's a blizzard. As another example, we can actually continue to do our work as expected. So it is a situation where it's a blended format. We have a regular council meeting. We have people in the audience, but we also have the ability of citizens to attend virtually.
Anyone else want to respond to Elaine's questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Elaine, for attending, and we'll certainly keep your concerns in mind as we go through the process of making the decision on changing any of our processes. Okay, so if there's no further questions, we will continue on with the agenda. There are no delegations this evening, so we're now into unfinished business. The first is the list of unfinished and deferred council business. Is there anything that needs to be added, modified, deleted? Fred, next.
It's a small point, but I think, I'm not sure we passed a motion or we put the money in the budget for the town to acquire some speed bumps. Now, I understand there's been some problems in getting them. I think the prices have gone up, but I don't want this dropped off the to-do list. So I don't know if staff can tell us now where we are with that, but it doesn't appear we're going to get them this year. So I just don't want them to be forgotten. Would it be appropriate to add that to council this list?
Maybe I'll ask Mr. Haluka. You've joined us this evening. Thank you, Les. Would it be normal practice that anything that had been budgeted in a previous year and had not been expended is considered again for the next year due to whatever problems there was obtaining the equipment or staff or tenders? Okay, Mark?
This is going,
That would certainly be our standard practice. If it was going to be something we were going to be putting in and we didn't get it done, we'd certainly be transferring those reserves to the next year. I don't know if Matt has any update on the actual speed bumps themselves.
Matt?
No, unfortunately, I don't have any updates on the speed bumps. They were coming from the States originally, the ones that we had set out to purchase, and the cost was fairly high, but we definitely have the full intention of purchasing those in the new year.
Okay. Anything else on this list that council members have concerns about? John?
I just want to say I agree with Fred. I think it should go on the list so that we don't forget it.
Okay. So make note then, Mark?
Just for an update, I was going to give it to you in my staff update, but I could do it now and get something off your list. The water tower lease agreements with Mono Wireless should be executed, I would think, tomorrow, if you wanted to take that off. And the accessory building regarding the scheduling the statutory public meeting, that's also been done and is scheduled for an upcoming council meeting. I'm not sure the exact date, but it's already been scheduled. So that was what that item had stated. So I'm in your hands. It's your list.
Okay. So if there's nothing further, then we'll carry on to item 2, the fill removal order update for the 4th line. And Mark, you've provided us with a list of things that have been submitted so far.
You've got the list. I guess the urgency, or at least the concerns that I've heard today, are not what's before you tonight, but what's not before you tonight, and that is confirmation from the recycling company that took the fill, and also the testing, additional testing that's been done last week by Burnsides regarding the, I want to say it's, I'll definitely mess it up, but I think it's butane. Was retested for last week. So you're not going to have the results of the testing until probably the end of this week, if not early next week. And I haven't seen the updated confirmation from the recycling company that took the fill. So at this point in time, I'd suggest you might want to defer the matter until your next meeting. It will just push back the public meeting for the Ritchie application, and ultimately the fill bylaw, but it's probably the prudent approach at this point.
I tend to agree with that, and also with the concerns that members in the community are thinking that we're trying to pull past one by having this on the agenda, and they hadn't had time to respond to it. So I do have a motion, an alternate motion than what was in Mark's report, that we defer this matter until such time as an updated report from the town engineer is available detailing the record of transport of fill and additional lab testing. Is anyone prepared to move that? Moved by Nix and seconded by Creelman. Is there any discussion? Yes, John?
I have more precise wording, if I may suggest, and that is we're deferring it pending documentation regarding fill, removal, and soil testing, such information to include but not be limited to the following: truck logs, waybills, tickets, bills of lading, and receiving site receipts. Now, that wording is very precise because it's taken directly from the order. I think we actually allowed for bills of lading and or receiving site receipts. But I think it's important that we stand behind our order. The so-called documentation that we've received to my mind, was inadequate. It told me absolutely nothing, whereas truck logs, way bills, tickets, bills of lading, and receiving site receipts is much more detailed and gives us a very precise indication of the number of trucks and where they went and how they were received. There's also the issue of the testing, but I'll let others speak to that.
Okay, Fred Nix, you moved the motion. Are you willing to take that additional items onto that motion?
I just want to point out a potential problem with what John is suggesting. I had read the order, John, in terms of those documenting the trucks, that it could be any one of those things, the way bill, the ticket, or the whatever it's called. Without rereading the order, I haven't got it in mind. I mean, the sentence in the order said ended with the and or, so I thought it meant any one of those. I would point out, I mean, if you're going to require all of that, I don't think it's physically possible to get a hold of the truck logs. Truck logs are something that are kept by the drivers. How are you going to go now and find those drivers and say, we want to see your logbook? I don't think they're under any obligation to provide them. I think I agree with your main point that the documentation we have now is perhaps a little flimsy. We just have these tickets, and it doesn't really tell us that fill got someplace and was received. I would take any of those documents, not all of them, but any of them that actually showed the receiving end received the fill. I think that's satisfactory, and that's hard enough evidence that the fill did get out of there and go someplace. So with that qualification, I'm prepared to accept John's idea as a friendly amendment, but not the whole list of things, because I just don't think it's going to be possible to get them.
Okay. Ralph?
Your Honor, the order did list all of the four things that John mentioned, and it was not clear whether it was requesting all of them or any one of them, to me at least. We have a situation here where, as you know, the local residents are not convinced that any fill was removed from there. And this is a situation that it demands us to have really good documentation so that there's no question. If the 66 loads of fill were removed on 4 different days, as the tracking delivery tracker states, we should have documentation for that. And it means, in my view, more than just the receipt from the receiving site. The ticket numbers are on the delivery tracker, and there's no reason why we cannot have the tickets, copies of the tickets. So I think we should at least have 2 of those 4 things in order for us to be convinced that indeed that there were 66 trucks which loaded fill at this site and went and transported, I think, to 2 different sites, and it was received there. So I favor more rather than less documentation, so that with the abundance of caution, the council can say, yes, we're quite sure that we did receive, that the fill was removed from there.
Okay, thank you. John?
If I can quote directly from the order, and I can see where there's confusion here, but the order actually states, in order to achieve this condition, that's the removal, the town will consider the following to be complete to meet the intent of this condition: removal of all remaining imported fill, which is currently estimated to be approximately, and then it goes on to say, documentation regarding truck trips and or volumes to be submitted to the town, including truck way bills, tickets, bills of lading, and or receiving site receipts. I took out the and or in my request because I think that we need to assuage the concerns of the residents that this material has in fact been removed from the site, And the more evidence of that, the better.
Thank you. So with that wording change on the motion on the floor, moved by Nix and seconded by Creelman, is there any discussion?
I think we need to know whether that's a friendly amendment or not, Fred.
I'm prepared to accept it as a friendly amendment. I'm still, John, I have to admit, a bit worried that it may not be possible to get all of those documents. I see how you're reading that sentence, but I still interpret it to be sort of, here's a list of the possible things that would prove the case. And in any case, I'm not even sure, Mark, when you hire a company to move a pile of fill, that the individual loads would have individual way bills. I'm just not sure they will. But if you want to put it in the motion and let staff try to get them, I don't think it'll do any harm. It just may prove to be impossible.
Mark?
Well, they didn't, I don't think they had a weigh scale set up on site, but obviously when it was coming in at the receiving site, they would be tracking certainly weights. I mean, they'd have the scales at the receiving end.
Yeah, of course. And if the receiving end gives us a formal, I don't know what you would call it, receipt or, log that they received these trucks of fill from Mono, it seems to me that's pretty strong evidence that's where the fill went. And I think that should satisfy most people.
Okay.
But John, leave the wording in if you want. You may be giving staff a bit of a headache here. But
Well, this whole thing has given us a headache. I mean, so much time and energy and expense has been consumed in trying to put a round peg in a square hole here. It could be that nothing is going to address the concerns of the residents who are of the opinion that little or nothing was taken off site. Being that as it may, the more information we can get, the better. As for the truck logs, they're required to be maintained in law by MTO legislation. And there must have been, I can't imagine that there would be too many drivers who were involved in this. They probably made 2 or 3 round trips to various sites. And the logs tell all. I mean, they tell you when the truck was inspected in the morning, when it started, what its route was, what it picked up, where it dropped off. And I'm not certain that we can get that information, but I don't think we should be shy about asking for it, because it's corroboration, I should say, with all the other information that we would be getting as well.
Thank you.
no, I don't disagree.
Sharon?
Is there any way that we can ask for that if possible or if available? So it fills all the other criteria, but you're not able to get those, the logbooks from the drivers. Is there some way to do it that way? Guess not.
Okay, Ralph,
That might be a reasonable idea, because I just can't see, John Creelman, I mean, how our staff was going to approach X number of truck drivers and say, we want a copy of your log. Like, good luck.
okay.
I'm not suggesting that staff approach truck drivers. I'm saying that this is a condition Mr. Ritchie has to meet. So the onus is on him to gather this material for us. If he comes back with a perfectly good reason why the truck logs are unavailable, I'm prepared to listen to it. But at the present time, what has been presented to us is woefully inadequate for us to conclude that the order has been complied with. The other question I'd ask, and and I think we need to get into the issue of the testing as well, is was there not an undertaking that Mr. Ritchie's consultant be present at the time of the removal of the soil, or the fill, I should say. I'm not certain that that was complied with.
Okay, Mark, did you?
That was a request that council made. I don't know if it ever formally made it into one of the orders, Deputy Mayor. I could certainly go back and review it, but it was an offer made at the meeting by the consultant, and I haven't seen that consultant since that meeting. What was that? Probably 2 to 3 months ago. So Mr. Clark has really been taking the lead for Mr. Ritchie on site. So the testing was done with our engineer on site, not their engineer.
Ralph?
I have, thank you, Your Honor. I have 3 comments. One is the so-called way bills. These are not W-E-I-G-H, they're W-A-Y. And so it's more than receiving at the receiving site. A way bill is a receipt that's provided by the truck driver or the carrier, which documents the contents and acknowledges receiving the cargo from the donation site. So that is something that should be available for us. And I agree with John. It's not our responsibility to track these down. It's the responsibility of Paul Ritchie. He knew what was the order, and we should have leave that to him to do. With respect to supervision, Mark, you're right. It was very fuzzy. I think that the understanding that we had, because I left the meeting with the understanding that Jim Walls or Eugene Lamerding was going to be present at the time that the fill was removed. And I've tried to find out whether or not that was true, because if they were present when the fill was being removed, then we know that fill went out there. That's as clear as it can be. And you have the residents next door saying there was no movement of trucks, as you know, and the residents across the street saying there was no movement of trucks. And so that I'm not saying that that's an absolute, but I think that it would be very helpful for us to know, was Jim Walls present at the time that the bill was being removed, or was Eugene present? And I'd like to have that answer. Finally, Your Honor, could you read the motion before we vote? Thank you.
Okay. So Fred Simpson, could I ask you to read the motion?
Okay. This is what I've got so far. That we defer this matter pending receipt of documentation, including but not limited to truck way bills, tickets, bills of lading, and receiving site receipts. And then the idea of the test results, that's still been left open-ended. So that might be something such as, and the results of the testing that was undertaken in the last 10 days. That's just a suggestion I've thrown in.
And so Fred Nix and John Creelman, are you happy with the wording that Mr. Simpson has made? John?
Well, I haven't, I'm not as great an expert on the issue of the testing as maybe I should be, but I think there are questions arising from acceptable levels of DDT and hexachlorobutadiene. Is that, did I pronounce that correctly? And I know that Ralph has looked into this more thoroughly than I have. The only other comment I'd make is that I do think we need a clarification as to whether there was a firm undertaking that Mr. Ritchie's consultant, who was in fact committed to being present at the removal of this material. Because my recollection is that there was a very firm undertaking, given that in addition to our representatives, his representative would also be there at the same time.
Okay, so Fred Nix?
Yeah, I would just say that last sentence that Fred Simpson read should not just say for the further testing that was done last week, but for the further testing of hexachlorobutadiene. Okay, because in the list, as I can read it now of the soil test we got, I could not find that word mentioned. I fully admit I didn't know whether it was subsumed under some of those other titles. And but the thing is, that's what the public was concerned about, that one element. Even though we had no proof that there was any contamination of it, we didn't have proof that there wasn't. So I think the test should be for that particular hexachlorobutadiene.
Okay. And clarification of Mr. Ritchie's representatives on site at the time of removal. Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And Your Honor, there were three things that were problems in the first report. Two of them were problems because of the testing procedure, and that was the hexachlorobutadiene and total DDT, and the third was conductivity. And the last study, as I read it, was that the conductivity was okay, but there was no evidence that I could find that total DDT or the hexachlorobutadiene had been tested for. Now, I'd have to say I did try to contact our contacts at our engineering firm on Friday and also during the weekend, and I haven't received any reply because I thought maybe I'm missing it, maybe it's under a different name, or maybe it's just something that I don't understand. But so they did not get back to me, and I'm a little bit disappointed with that. But that's water under the bridge now.
Okay, so then we add the DDT to the hexabutadiene testing results. Mark?
Well, I was just going to say, Mr. Walls did get back to me, Ralph, and say that he did add that to new testing late last week. So it wasn't in the test that you saw. He's requested more testing.
Okay.
Like,
did you say
got the sample? They've got the samples. He had requested more testing on the samples.
Okay, so he got my message, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, John?
If I could ask Mark a question, do we have any indication where the 5 truckloads that were reflected in the most recent report as not having yet been moved, what the disposition of those truckloads is?
It was minus, I think it's in the report from Mr. Walls that it went for a driveway construction in New Tecumseh.
Okay, I think we need to treat those 5 truckloads in the same fashion that we're treating all of the other fill removal in terms of way bills and receipts and so forth.
Okay, so we should add that to the motion also. Documentation for the 5 remaining truckloads and its receipt site. Yes, Fred.
Can I just ask a process question? And because I'm a bit confused. There was an application for a variance under our fill bylaw, and we held a public meeting, if I'm not mistaken. And from what Mark just said, once this fill removal order has been completed, we're going to hold another public meeting. Now is that because did I misunderstand, Mark?
Yeah, my report was very clear. You've held your public meeting on it. You never deliberated. The process that you left it at was that you asked some questions. You asked about cut and fills, plans that could be done. There's never been a response to the public meeting questions that were asked by Mr. Ritchie or his consultant, and you've never received a report from the town engineers on any of that. So I didn't suggest it be a new public meeting. I suggested that it be, you would continue on with your deliberations. Where you want to go with your deliberations on that, that's up to you, but you did hold a public meeting and
Okay.
received submissions from the public as well.
So then, okay, so now I understand. So the application, which was made some time ago, is still under the old fill bylaw.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a well-modified motion on the floor. and I think it's going to serve its purpose. Do you want it read again? Fred Nix is saying yes, and Ralph is saying yes, and John's saying yes, and Sharon's saying yes. Okay, so Fred Simpson.
Good, because I was hoping for that, because I'm actually don't fully have this resolution in hand yet. So that we defer this matter pending receipt of documentation, including but not limited to truckway bills, tickets, bills of lading, and receiving site receipts, and that results of testing of hexafluorobutadiene. And this is where I'm going to need some further input. And was it DDT?
Total DDT.
Total DET.
Total DDT. And clarification whether Mr. Ritchie's representative was on site during soil removal. And then I'm afraid I've lost the next para, which was how to incorporate the 5 truckloads. Yeah, this is also to include the other 5 truckloads.
That's
So
right.
if someone's-
Okay, John?
Maybe it can be simplified to say all removal, and that is understood to include the 5 truckloads. Rather than separating out the 5 truckloads as some sort of anomaly,
Okay.
we basically see all fill removal. And it's from our discussion here, it's clearly understood that we mean the 5 truckloads as well. And that the same standard of proof apply to those that apply to everything else.
So do we need to specifically articulate all the other 5 truckloads, or is adding the word all soil good enough?
That's the suggestion, of just adding the word all soil removal. Mark?
I was going to agree with the deputy mayor. I think the 5, putting the bit on the end is a bit redundant. I think we get the point. I think you also used the term representative on site. I know Mr. Ritchie did have a representative on site. I think you're referring to his professional engineer.
Okay.
I think is it GS2, the engineering firm?
Yes, I believe so.
That
Yes.
was the undertaking that I recall. In addition to his consultant, we were going to have a representative from his engineering firm witness the removal.
You just used the term, what I'm saying is you just used the term representative, and I know there was a representative on site. It just wasn't someone from GS2.
Yeah, it's GS2 that we're referring to, I think.
Is it GS2 or G2S?
G2S. GSP is the county, I think, planning. That's where the confusion is, G2S.
Okay. Would you like me to go through it again, Your Worship?
I think we might be all right. Ralph's got a question.
I mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that we expected to have our people on site too, either Mr. Jim Walls or the QP or Eugene Lambertine. That's what I expected. I may be mistaken, and I think the residents did it too. And if that's true, I'd like to know if they were on site and how many loads that they saw removed. Thank you.
Okay. So it's clear then what the motion is. So if there's nothing further, I will ask if anyone is opposed. And not hearing or seeing anything, we will say it's carried. And now we're on to our third item, customer service policy. So, Fred.
So when the customer service policy was passed by council at the previous meeting, staff was asked to prepare a shortened and condensed version that would be suitable for posting on the website. And the report you have in front of you is what I propose that wording would be.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions regarding Mr. Simpson's report? John?
I could be missing this, Fred, but is there anything in here about placing people on hold or giving them the option of zeroing out to a live person in the office?
Yeah, that is mentioned in there, that we shall answer the phone promptly. We will not put you on hold for longer than is absolutely necessary, and never for more than 2 minutes without giving you the option to speak with someone else or to ask for us to give you a call back. So
Perfect, thank
that is in the prompt and accurate service section.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ralph?
Thank you. I think it's a good message.
I like it very much. I think the tone is very good, and it's well done, Fred.
Okay. Mark?
Just so council is aware, I went to about 7 different websites working through this with Fred, and I can tell you that we were the only website prior to this that actually had a customer service complaint form on their website.
That's good.
And that was before we took this step.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so we have a motion that council approves and adopts the customer service pledge as presented in the report from the deputy clerk dated October 7th, 2020. Could I have a mover? Moved by Creelman and seconded by Nix. Any further discussion? Is anyone opposed to this motion? Seeing none, that's carried. And so we are on to bylaws and new business. Amendment to the no parking bylaw provided by Fred Simpson again. Any questions regarding his report? Yes, Pharrell?
In the Schedule 1, the background, I believe originally this was an issue with respect to the Scotts Falls and the parking there. But we have 2 additional sites there, one on the 2nd line and one on the 5th line. And I don't recall, I may be mistaken, but I don't recall discussing these as being problem locations. Could we have an explanation of why we're putting no parking on these 2 sites?
Mark?
Those are in your existing no parking bylaws. So this is just this adds the Scotts Falls and Cannings Falls properties to your list of no parking sites.
Okay.
So it's
Thank you.
Any other questions, John?
As a long-term project, I think we need to really look at what's happening on certain weekends in the town of Mono in terms of parking on both sides of the road, namely on the 3rd line in proximity to the Mono Cliffs parking lot and other locations where it's getting quite frankly, it's getting dangerous with people trying to drive north or south with vehicles parked on both sides of the road. I don't know what the solution is, but I think it should be on our radar as a point of discussion and maybe study for the future.
I agree. I did ask Mark to contact Nikki Randall for this last long weekend to see what was on the schedule there for her and what staff would be available. But there are a lot of hot spots, and similarly, that Bruce Trail has taken their own business at the Scotts Cannings Falls and doing their own policing, so to speak. It would be maybe an opportunity to contact the Mono Cliffs director, manager, whatever, and see what they can do to assist, because we shouldn't be, in my mind, I don't think we should be paying for policing to go up and down the road for, well, for example, this last weekend, I'm sure that parking was disastrous as always when it's the fall colors. So maybe we should also take a different tactic and potentially go to our MPP to ask a question too. So, Mark?
Yeah, I think they're going to take the position that, well, you haven't posted no parking, so it really comes down to a Highway Traffic Act. Can a car get through there? And that'll be up to the OPP to investigate. I'm wondering whether there's not an opportunity to go back to M&R to ask them to be proactive and expand their permitted parking area on the property.
Right. Because one of the complaints I got was from a local farming operation, and they were trying to travel with round bales, and people were consistently cutting them off on grades, etc. And it is getting dangerous with these people that don't understand the topography that we deal with on a regular basis. Okay, so maybe Mark and I can work on some letters and see what we can get out there. Yes, John?
I was going to say it may not require a parking bylaw so much as a little bit of enforcement by the OPP with charges of obstruction of a road. I mean, there is a charge under the Highway Traffic Act when you impede traffic on a traveled portion of a roadway.
Right. Okay, so we do have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to amend bylaw 2000-12, being a bylaw to provide for the regulation of traffic in the town of Mono, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk of the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. We have a mover, Martin, and seconded by Megtalo. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Okay, procedure bylaw, electronic participation. And keeping in mind with our question from public question period, Fred's provided us with a complete package. Was there anything that you wanted to add, Fred?
No, other than the fact that I'm recommending that we pass an entire new bylaw and repeal the old one, just because it is starting to get a number of changes over the last little while, and that this is just administratively going to be easier to accomplish.
Okay. Any questions regarding the submission? So if there's nothing further, then I've got a motion that we introduce to give the necessary readings to a bylaw to regulate the proceedings of the municipal council of the town of Mono and the committees thereof, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk for the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. For the mover, moved by Martin and seconded by Nix. Any further discussion? All in favor? Or sorry, any opposed? Oh, sorry, bad habit. Seeing no opposition, that's carried. Number 3, the motion by Deputy Mayor Creelman regarding the speed limit. And is there any further comments that you wanted to add, Deputy Mayor?
Madam Mayor, if I may, I'm happy to defer this for a couple of reasons. Number one is that we've thanks to Matt, we've got the speed measuring sign up and running and displaying a rate of speed. We've also put a surface treatment on that section of road, which may have an impact on the speed, at least from the second bridge south to Hockley Road. And third, I understand that the speed measuring sign also collects data. And I think before we have a debate of this, roads should have an opportunity to extract the data from the sign, which they will do when they move the sign in 2 or 3 weeks. And then we'll have a better handle on what the issues and what the problems are, rather than going on the basis of anecdotal information. I'm still convinced that this is an important change, but I'd rather the data speak before I do.
Okay, thank you. So did you want to table this, or did you want to withdraw it and resubmit it?
I'm happy to table it and to a point in the future, but not a date certain, because we don't know when we'll get either the data back or a report from the roads department.
Okay. So should we put that on our list of unfinished items?
I think on the list.
Okay. Everybody understand that? Yes, Fred?
My memory's going, I got a process problem. I cannot, I knew it was on the agenda, John, this motion, but it's not in my agenda package. Am I in the wrong part of the package? I have, when we get down to bylaws, correspondence, new business additions to the agenda, I have 2 items. The parking bylaw and the procedural bylaw, and that's it. And then I've got Schedule A, so I don't know where that motion has gone.
Well,
It's on my package.
Yep.
yeah, it's on mine.
Click.
I
Item number 3
download-
is-
Well, maybe,
It's not on mine. I downloaded this from the town's website, on Friday, and I thought it was here. Anyway, since you're tabling it, it really doesn't matter. But
All the more reason to defer this.
okay. So now we're moving on to Schedule A. So I'll ask Sharon, did you have anything on Schedule A?
Well, my computer is not behaving very well, but I would like us to support 22, the township of the rural broadband infrastructure message. I think part of it came through Orangeville. I don't have it. I can't get it. There are 3 computers working in this house at the moment, and that's tilt. So I can't get that. But anyway, that's one of the things. The other one is I also like the Amaranth one discussing funding for arts and culture as well. I thought that would be that's a good move in the right direction too. That remind people that there are other things going on, and I can't even remember the wording now of the cannabis, the next one, which is 24. I can't even remember what it has to do with the province sharing more about how cannabis is monitored to let municipalities have more say. I can't remember the whole thing, but the gist of it was that we weren't getting enough information
Right.
and
okay.
have enough power. So
Okay.
those were 3 things I was interested in.
Okay, so item 22, the rural broadband infrastructure. I don't know why, but I'm thinking we already did support this in some fashion.
I didn't see us on the list, that's all.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
sent a letter. A letter went out under your signature, Your Worship, on July 28th on that matter.
Yeah,
Okay. And but it wasn't on that one. Okay, that's good.
and so item 23, the funding for arts and culture. And the request from Amaranth is supporting the City of Oshawa's motion and the Government of Canada and the Province of Ontario, blah, 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 support for their motion to request that federal, provincial, and regional government to help municipalities assist in their local social, cultural service clubs, children, youth, minor sports, or organizations with clear and definitive relief funding programs.
That's it.
That's it. So are you wanting to send a motion of support for this?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? Yes, John? Are you going to second it? Okay. So we have that motion of support to go, letter support. And could I have anybody so opposed to it? Okay, that carries. Resolution regarding the cannabis production. I'll be interested to see what kind of response they get, since our original letters, Kyle Seaback has followed up religiously for the last, I don't know, how many months is it, Mark? And there's been zero. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem supporting their resolution, but there doesn't seem to be anybody at the federal level that's willing to tackle any of these issues. Yes, Ralph.
I'd like to speak against this supporting, and I find it really vague. As it's communicate more readily, provide local governments with more support, enhance the regulations, which we already have. So I think it's too unspecific to be useful. The bottom line, which is at the top, is that it requests a governing body in cannabis production. And it sounds to me like they're requesting another authority. And I think that it's just, maybe that's the direction to go, but I think that we should think about this before supporting it.
Okay, so yes, John?
I think it's well-meaning and intention, but what scares me is the notion of taking a unified approach to land use planning restrictions. I think the last time we had the experience of that was when the province had its green energy legislation with regard to windmills, and municipalities had little or no say in on that topic. So I'd be nervous about a one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay, thank you. So if there's nothing further, Sharon, I'm going to move to Ralph. Did you have anything on Schedule A?
No, Your Honor, I was very supportive of number 22. That's the only item.
Okay. Fred Nix, do you have anything on Schedule A?
Well, the one thing that caught where I spent most of my attention was item 17. And not that I didn't know most of that before, but what the office is really emphasizing is that it's the municipalities that set service levels. And I'm not sure Mono has ever done that. And I don't know, Mark, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I can think of a specific example in the past where service levels have changed with one of our 4 fire departments, and we neither were consulted or set the service level. They just changed it on us. That was when Orangeville decided to hire 8 more full-time firefighters because, and I forget the exact times, but their response time would in the evenings would be cut down, and that's when our fees went up by 25%. Now, I'm not saying that was a bad decision, but my point was it wasn't Mono Council that set that service level. And my concern with that particular case is now we have 1/4 of the municipality with service level up here and the rest of the municipality with service levels down here. And we've never really set the service levels for any of our fire departments that I can think of. So I'm just putting that out there that this is giving me something to think about. I don't have any solutions, but the fire marshal's office is saying it's our responsibility to set those service levels.
Mark?
It says how you will deliver the service. You have the choice as to how you will deliver the service between volunteer, a hybrid, or full-time. Does it say you're actually setting the service levels within the department?
And I think our risk management policy that we review each year establishes what our service levels are. And I thought we had resolved it in Orangeville. I thought we reverted it back in the Orangeville, in the Mono area, it was reverted back to B
The A
level.
and B, yeah. But we still pay 25% more for having a faster response time, apparently.
Well, at the time, because we were not informed. It wasn't until we looked at the bills and there was a big change in costs, and so that's what was ferreted out. So then we've reverted it back to B level, which is what the rest of the municipality has.
Well, going on memory, our fees didn't drop by 25%. They stayed at about a little over $4,000 a call, which I know now has been converted to X number of calls a year times such and such. It's sort of a formula. We pay quarterly on the expected number of calls at approximately $4,000 a call.
Right. But unfortunately, unless we're going to establish our own fire department in that sector, we're at their mercy.
No, I agree, and I'm not proposing any solutions. I'm just saying that item number 17 is the one that got me to thinking about how we do this in Mono.
Right. Okay, John?
Just wondering, now that we've had some experience with the flat rate alternative, whether we can go back and see whether it's saving us money or costing us money, so that we can consider our options going forward.
Mark, is that something that Les usually does when he's developing budget so that there's projections?
Yeah, I was going to say I was going to have Les look into that.
Okay. Okay, so John, did you have anything on Schedule A?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, so we have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda. Could I have a mover? Moved by Mantelo and seconded by Nix. No further discussion. Anybody opposed? So that carries. So now we're into reports from council and staff. So, do we know whether or not Les is actually able to get his mic going, or? There he is.
You're muted. There we
There,
go.
yeah, perfect. No,
Well, maybe not.
maybe not so perfect. We can't hear you. Okay, it's gonna go back in. All right. How about Kim Heaton?
There we go. So happy Thanksgiving, Council. Hope you had a good one. I'm stuffed. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. So just quick update, working away on getting capital budget prepared for council, getting the numbers. The other thing is to let council know that the Fieldstone Parquet installation is well underway. The equipment has actually been installed, and this week the surfacing, the rubberized surfacing will be installed. We are putting fencing around the whole installation at this point until we're ready to open it up. Trying to keep people away from it, but there is evidence that they've already been on the equipment. So we're doing our best to keep them off. But at this point, we've had some media, some Facebook postings by certain Facebook groups, and the overall consensus is that everyone's pretty excited about the park. So there's been comments like, good job, way to go, thank you. So that was pretty good to see today when I took a look at that. So I was happy. The P gate for the Island Lake Park has been ordered. It's approximately a 6-week delivery time on those P gates. So we've got about another 4 weeks to go before it's going to be here. But I have asked them to rush it as much as they possibly can. They know we want it sooner than later. So they're trying their best to get it done for us. The hike and bike trail network, the signage, the amenities, that's all been, we're working away on that. Councillor Mangtalo and Matt and Andrew and myself, we're putting the designs together for the signage, and have done lots of investigating as to other amenities for the trail in order to be able to meet all the deadlines for the grant funding. So I can confidently tell council we will meet those deadlines without a problem. And just update on the skating rinks. The volunteers for Purple Hill and Mono Center have both come forward and let me know that they definitely are looking forward to putting their skating rinks in back again this year. Unfortunately, our volunteers for the Medill skating rink have decided not to go forward this year. So at this point, I won't be ordering a liner for Medill. We do have some feelers out there to see if we can't get some other volunteers for that neighborhood, but at this time no one's come forward, so I will be going forward and ordering the Mono Center and the Purple Hill rink liners. So that's it.
Thank you. Any questions, Jim? Yes, John?
Just on the Medill rink, there is a private Facebook page that is represents quite a few of the people up in that area. Any thought to maybe putting a note out on that to see if you can get some volunteers?
Actually, there is a note on it, or the volunteer, my main volunteer, when I spoke with him about possible other volunteers, he said he would get his wife to post on that page because I guess she's quite active on it. So I understand that there's supposed to be something on that page for the skating rink.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Les, you're back. Want to give it a try again?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yay!
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was trying new technology. I was trying to knock out the background noise with the headphones. I guess the mic didn't quite connect correctly. Anyways, hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. I actually want to discuss, I'm surprised no one asked on Schedule A, number 18, the Municipal Affairs Municipal Operating Fund Phase 2. I participated in a webinar last Thursday with Municipal Affairs, and of course a whole bunch of other municipalities, and they basically discussed how the Phase 2 funding would work. I would suggest to council that we would not qualify. They set certain criteria where that the municipalities had to meet. One huge criteria is municipalities would have to draw on their discretionary reserve funds. Now, of course, we have various reserve funds, and some reserve funds have already been earmarked to be spent this year for various capital projects. And of course, we'll have reserve funds for next year's capital projects in 2021. Basically, I have projected to council our shortfall would be about 240,000. We received just over 200 from the government. Our 2019 year-end cash surplus on our budget is higher than anticipated when we originally did the budget. So basically, we would be deemed not requiring the funds. So there won't be any resolution coming to the next council meeting in support of applying for that grant. Now, I know this is a verbal report. If council would like something, obviously in a memo written format, I will have, if council desires, that ready for the next meeting. Just so that way you have something, outlined in case you get a question, why did Mono not apply for Phase 2? I think the general consensus in these workshops, I took another workshop the week before, is municipalities that are similar to Mono basically will accept the first phase funding. It's other municipalities that have arenas, swimming pools, hockey programs, like obviously the bigger cities that have larger losses will most likely get the Phase 2 funding.
Okay, well, I think that would be great for you to do that report, so we do have it on record.
Okay.
Anything else, Les?
Nope, that's it.
Okay,
Thank
any
you.
questions, Fred, next?
Les, should we tell them our preliminary look at the CPI numbers? We don't have to.
I think we'll keep everyone in suspense for next meeting. I mean, obviously, inflation is, I think there was 1 month it was a minus. Inflation did start, like we're going back to last October, inflation did start in the 2% range. And then obviously with COVID, it has dipped down to almost zero now. I mean, so the normal process, as council is familiar, is we take the average of the 12 months and go from there.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Les.
Okay, thank you.
We'll go on to David Trotman. Are you there? You
I
are.
am right. Yes, I am. I've been here. Not too much really since my last update. But I mean, we're expecting that the microbrew application will come back in short order, possibly November. That's a tentative. We have a second submission that they prepared since it's a public meeting. And we have technical review being done on that. We have October 29th set for committee of adjustment. There were 2 applications and we're trying to get a third on that just came in today. So we should have 3. We will hold it virtually, of course. Committee is aware, so we're just trying to finalize where people will be. Some will be at home, others might be here, so we'll figure out those details with our deputy clerk, Fred Simpson, of course, and Andrew. And then, I mean, that's about it. The accessory amendment, as you well know, will be coming forward on the 27th. I believe Fred said we got some comments on that so far. We may be getting more, but that's about all I have for now for council.
Okay. Any questions of David? Oh, I think you did a great job, David. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Matt Donor.
See if I could get my technology to work here. So operations staff are finishing up some of the summer fall items, grading, roadside cutting, ditching, that type of thing. They're doing pretty well with that. And then we're flipping all the equipment over to snow plows and pulling the water tankers off shortly. Working on capital budget right now. So hopefully work on that in the next week or so. Stream signage RFQ was sent out last week, so I'm waiting to hear back for that, for the signage and all the posts and fasteners. The water main project is still trugging along fairly slowly. We're getting there. We're getting some questions from some of the owners in there when it's going to be starting or when they're going to have water available. It's looking like sometime mid-November at this point. So we're moving forward with that. Rosemont urbanization, we've got base course asphalt on right now, and we expect to have the top course on late this week or early next. And it's looking pretty good up there as well. Blind line, we have the north culvert in, 15 Sideroad culvert just west of Blind line is also in, and we expect to pave sometime next week. And then the contractor Moorfield will be moving to the southerly culverts on Blind line in the swampy area. So we're hoping to get those started next week and get that project wrapped up as well. SCADA project has been going fairly well. We've had some hiccups in the changeover in Island Lake, and but we're working on it. Jake's been working closely with the general contractor and the Airmosa Engineering with getting that stuff sorted out. But all in all, everything's moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Fred Nix.
Yes, Matt, last year we put money in your budget for Phragmites control. And I'd be curious as to whether or not you spent it, where you spent it, what you did with it, and how successful you've been. The reason I ask you that Matt, is because I've had some communications with the county who also had money in their budget for Phragmites control. And I'm quite disappointed in some of the techniques they're using. So I'd like to know how the town of Mono, how it used that money. Will we get a report? Not a big report. Maybe this is something I can talk to you about privately, but I'd just like to know what you did with that money and how successful you were.
Well, we won't really know how successful we were until next year. Likely, we did do a 3-year RFP for that project, which was application of herbicide and non-wet areas. Obviously, they have to be a licensed contractor to apply any type of herbicide. 2016, we did some mapping of all the locations, and that map is obviously growing in the 4 years since we first established it. But yeah, we've been working really hard at defining those locations and adding those to the list as we went. We did really well with the bid that we got. Leuschner's was the contractor that did the job for us, and I think, well, it was very well priced, and we were able to get a lot of locations knocked off. And like I said, we won't really know until next year how effective it was, but based on the look of the plant, he was pretty happy, and it looked pretty good to me. Everything seemed to die within the first week, at least it. Yeah.
The problem with what the county is doing is they're only spraying on their road allowance. So if you have a large patch of Phragmites, you spray in off the road 3 feet, and yeah, you kill those plants.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you have rhizomes that grow to 20 or 30 feet from
For
the main
sure.
patch back out there. So it's just you could do it every year, but you cannot control Phragmites in a large patch like that.
Yeah,
Not
I
if you
agree.
only have road allowance.
I think awareness on it is definitely becoming more, people are starting to become more aware of the issue. And we've got it on our website. We've got, everybody's been talking about Phragmites, and I think, we were somewhat limited in how we could apply the herbicide, because we obviously couldn't extend on a private property. Now, if a resident came out, I encourage the contractor to have that conversation with them and have a separate agreement to go on to private lands. We have had requests in the past this summer for spraying of Japanese knotweed and other invasive species that are throughout Mono. Haven't seen hogweed. The operations guys have tackled hogweed pretty well along Nottawasaga River by hand, and that seems to have knocked it back, and we haven't seen a lot of that. But Phragmites is obviously the worst, and I think awareness is the biggest thing, and having the applying the herbicide at the right times too. Like, I kept bugging them because I wanted to get it done, but there's a right time for it when all the energy's up in the stems, right? So, and up in before the seeds could really get a chance to be displaced from the plant. So we did that towards the end of August, middle to end of August this year, and like I said, things are looking good, and he was pretty happy with the approach from when I spoke to him. But we have him back again next year and the fall in 2022 as well, to hit any locations that may have been missed or didn't get knocked back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Matt? Okay, seeing none. Thanks very much, Matt.
No problem.
Fred Simpson?
Two items, Your Worship, that I have to bring up. At the last meeting, I mentioned that there was a bill that proposed to take the municipal election voters list and hand that over to the province. That bill passed royal assent. So the 2022 municipal election will be the last one using the current voter registration system of MPAC. After that, it will be a provincial responsibility. And as for the town hall meeting, so I have talked to Melissa Kovacs, who is the manager of waste services at the county, and she will be able to give a presentation for our town hall meeting. We'll also, of course, have a presentation on the plastic bag bylaw. And thinking that that might not fill up an entire agenda, I have talked to a gentleman by the name of Kenneth Boker, who is the president of the Caledon chapter of the Electric Vehicle Society, who would be more than happy to give a short presentation on electric vehicles if council so wishes, and that would tie in, I think, with the theme that was kind of developing between waste management and reduction of solid waste was the electric vehicles. So he's prepared to give a very quick 20-minute presentation on this town hall as well.
Okay, so how do council members feel about those three items? Making up our agenda, and then we can use the balance of time for a Q&A from residents. Yes, John?
I think given what we heard earlier this evening, we have to be very mindful that there might be quite an appetite for a Q&A on any topic. So I would be very supportive of leaving time for that because if we don't, it will appear that we have shut out the opportunity for residents to ask us questions on a multitude of issues.
Yeah, so if we start at 7, if maybe we ask for the presentations to be maximum 15, and then a 5-minute Q&A with each individual one, that would bring us to 8 o'clock. And then we would have a full hour available and close off at 9. Does that suit?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so, yeah, Fred, I think we've got the agenda then.
Okay, that works out perfect, and in fact, that'll show up in the hard copy newsletter that'll be going out in a couple of weeks that Andrew's been putting together.
Oh, perfect.
So, timing's perfect.
Good, okay, thank you. So, Mark.
Very quickly, Your Worship. As I indicated earlier, we expect to have the agreements with Mono Wireless done tomorrow, and I think they'll start installation on Thursday at the water tower. The second matter, the county service delivery study, as I said, they're still working through that. They've scheduled a half day tomorrow and a half day Thursday to go through 4 topics that they feel have not been flushed out in their entirety, including fire and recreation, and forget the other 2, eludes me at the moment. But anyway, so those are tomorrow morning all day, or tomorrow morning, and then afternoon on Thursday. So, and then finally, our staff met with the TRCA staff last week before, regarding MOUs for service delivery going down the road, anticipating the provincial regulations as to what will be, what services the conservation authorities will be mandatory to provide and what will be optional. So, and also discuss some priority projects that TRCA have with their lands in Mono. I've communicated that to Mr. Sinclair as well, our rep, and he has indicated to me that they would like a staff member to go with them on a tour of the properties in Mono and Agila with Mr. Sinclair. So
Okay,
that's all I have, Worship.
Okay, any questions of Mark? Fred, next.
Well, what was the sense when you talked to TRCA in terms of telling them what services Mono would like from them if we do enter into an MOU? I mean, I know it's pretty early, but did they ask you? I mean, anyway, any sense of what both Mono wants from TRCA and what TRCA is expecting us to have in an MOU?
No, I think our comments to TRCA were really, I really don't want to be entertaining a different agreement with all 3 of our conservation authorities. And we really need to have one very similar, if not the same agreement with CVC, NVCA, and TRCA. They agreed to take that away and work with the other CAs before coming back. What we really received was, I think, was a sales job on all the services that TRCA can provide us. And it runs the gamut, and they want us to kind of take a look at them and commit to them if possible. So, you know, if one of the CAs are doing something that we really like and the other ones aren't, then we can certainly consider that. But it was a preliminary meeting just to get a handle on what services they do offer, given the fact that they do work or their jurisdiction is the City of Toronto and the rest of the GTA. They do have a very sophisticated engineering and planning program, and do provide a lot of services to those communities that they may or may not be providing in the future.
Okay, so thank you, Mark. Sharon, did you have anything you needed to report?
Not a thing.
Okay, Ralph, do you have anything you wanted to report on?
Your Honor, just with reference to what Matt said and Kim said, we're funding the stream signage and the Mono Hike and Bike Network out of a grant, and Les did try to extend that grant further, but that has not happened, so we have to spend the money by the 31st of October. So I'm delighted that Matt has been able to put in the order for the stream signage. I should caution you not to look for the signage to be up at any time soon, as that installation will be done by the roads department when they can. It may not be done till spring. We'll have to wait and see. With respect to the hike and bike, I expect that, as Kim said, they will have the signage completed and maybe orders being put in by the end of the week. That's my hope. We need to have invoices back from the companies. That's my understanding, Les. We need to have invoices back dated before the end of this month in order to make use of the grant, which is about $40,000. Other items. The monopollinator garden, as you know, took off a slab of land which was immediately adjacent to the house that we own there, and that slab of land, we used the north portion of it to create the monopollinator garden with various raised areas, etc. And I think the people that have been involved in this have done a fantastic job. We have sort of morphed into a little bit south of there. There's a large mound of soil there that was put there when Fred dug out his stream, and that marks the southern boundary, if you'd like, of where we could work. So between that and our pollinator garden, we're going to have a more, shall we say, wildflower-like and wilderness type pollinator garden. And we have just setting up a committee right now for this. We've been working on this actually for a couple of years with respect to trying to get rid of thistles and prepare it for seeding. And we're just establishing a subcommittee of the pollinator garden committee to come up with a plan. And I expect we'll do wildflower seeding this year before the snow flies, which is a great timing for wildflower seeds. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Okay. Fred, next, do you have anything?
Just a small item. The Headwater Stream Committee was out a week ago Sunday in the rain in Melanchthon, planting trees along rehabilitated wetland. It's a small project. Council did approve our expenditures of money there. Our mandate allows us to do work anywhere in the county of Dufferin. So politically, this was good because we've now done a project in Amaranth and now Melanchthon. Of course, most of our work is in Mono, but we were out there planting trees around this rehabilitated wetland. We'll see how it does.
Okay, thank you. John, did you have anything to report?
Yes, I can confirm that Mono Wireless is beginning installation on Thursday, sometime during the day. I don't know whether it will be, in fact, climbing the tower, something that I witnessed at the end of last week. It was quite spectacular, and I think I sent a photograph out to everyone of what it looks like in the interior of the tower with somebody with 100 pounds of grappling equipment attached to them climbing the last time. Everything went well. They discovered pretty much what they expected at the top of the tower, and it appears that this is definitely a go, and will provide high-speed wireless to many residents in line of sight to that tower. The other issue I wanted to raise was related to this. The province has a program called ICON, which is basically a partnership that one can form with internet service providers, between municipalities and internet service providers, to expand networks or create networks. And they've had 2 rounds. The first round is out the door, closed, but they have a second round of funding. And Mono Wireless has asked if we would consider partnering with them to expand their network, as they intend to do regardless, from the tower out into other parts of the community. I indicated I would take this back to council and would like your support to prepare a submission, which of course would come back to council for consideration. The last issue is I still live in hope that at least 2 other internet service providers are interested in co-locating on the tower and possibly in other locations in North Mono. And I'm waiting on a response to an email that I sent out over the weekend with regard to extending high-speed wireless from the Rosemont area, which is in line of sight towards the ViaNet towers, further into the north end of Mono. So I think there are some opportunities there without the construction of new towers.
Sounds like good news. What does council members feel about working with the agreement to further expand the wireless? Our rednecks?
Yeah, I'd be all for it. I'd like to know just a bit more about it. When you say to form a partnership with them to expand high speed, is that to go after grants, or does forming a partnership mean it's part of it, we're going to have to put money into it?
No, I know that Mark knows something about this because he and I talked about it, but partnership may be the wrong word. We essentially work together with them and endorse their efforts to expand their network, and it is in pursuit of provincial dollars. Mark, have I explained that correctly?
Yes.
Yes. The announcement from ICON came in Friday, so after we had done the agenda. So it'll be on your, we'll have it on your next agenda. The last intake is January 8th, 2021. So I'll have a full package and explanatory note for next council. I haven't had an opportunity to go through it page by page, Deputy Mayor.
Okay. Okay, so I don't have anything to report except for I finally got my email back again. Yet once again. But anyway, so now we're on to notices of motion. Are there any this evening? Seeing none, then we have items to talk about in camera. So we have a motion that council moved into a closed meeting pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended at 8:49 p.m. for personal matters about identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. 1, update on open bylaw enforcement cases. So could I have a mover? Moved by Creelman and seconded by Nix. And anyone opposed? Okay, fine then, that carries. So Andrew will take us offline.
Your worship, it's past my bedtime. Can I go home now?
Shortly.
I got up at 3 o'clock this morning, by the way.
Well, you shouldn't do that at your age. Okay. Mark. Okay, thank you, Andrew. So we have a motion that we rise from in-camera session at 10:20 p.m. and that council accept the advice from the town solicitor and directs that the town administration and the town solicitor to proceed accordingly. Could I have a mover? Moved by Nix and seconded by Martin. And anybody opposed? Being none, that's carried. And is there anything else anybody want to add? Okay, so so we have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Mono in session VC13-2020 held on the 13th of October 2020, that it be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Could I have a mover? Creelman and Nix. And is anybody opposed? That carried. And thank you very much, everybody, for your attention. So we adjourn this meeting at 10:21 p.m. And I'm going to put down Meg Flo to move and seconded by Martin. And that's carried. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.